They want men to be weak because, here's why. Like, if you want to break a society, the first thing that you do is you make the men weak. And the other thing that you do is you over society. And they've done this on purpose. That's why, like, in schools, they'll be like, porn is healthy, it's normal to watch, right? Like, you know, masturbate as much as you can. Okay, cool. So you're going to lower your testosterone. And the most important thing is you are going to bring about a feeling of shame. And on the spectrum of emotion, shame is the worst thing you can feel. Guilt is above shame, because shame means fundamentally I am a bad person.
That is so true, bro. It's all about control. So every time you're on the internet looking for that spicy content, you are doing exactly what they want you to do, making you weaker, making you more shameful, makes you easier to control.
Embrace the rapture. That's the only way I can describe what's happening to society right now. We are living through a complete rewiring of gender roles, relationships, work, identity, and even what it means to be a normal person. And if you are a modern Western man, you are not crazy for feeling like the entire system has quietly turned against you. Because it has. Everywhere you look, you are being told you are a problem. You are told that wanting a stable life, a loyal partner, a family, and a bit of peace makes you weak, controlling, or boring. You are criticized for working out, because apparently muscles mean toxic masculinity. You are mocked for drinking milk, because some journalist decided it's now a symbol of some extremist meme. You are told that wanting stability in a collapsing economy is somehow a moral flaw. Meanwhile, women are celebrated for living their truth, traveling, sleeping with whoever, and being independent. And even if you question the long-term consequences of any of this, you are a sexist dinosaur who can't handle empowered women. Let's be clear. This isn't a jab at women's freedom. I fully support women having choices, chasing their passions, traveling, and refusing to live their grandmother's life. But what I'm pointing at is the double standard in how the culture talks about men and women. When a woman publicly breaks a world record for sleeping with over 1,000 men in a day, she gets coverage, think pieces, discourse, and a weird sort of twisted respect as a symbol of conversation starter. When a man says he wants a wife, who isn't out every weekend, suddenly he's controlling, insecure, and fragile. That's the imbalance. And then there's the circus around people like Andrew Tate. He's not popular because his ideas are all genius. He's popular because he says completely outrageous things in an ecosystem that rewards outrage. He's a symptom of a sick machine. The system boosts him, not because it wants strong, grounded men, but because he's good for clicks, distraction, and division. He becomes a cartoon villain for media to attack and a cartoon hero for lost boys to worship. Either way, you are not supposed to think clearly. You are supposed to pick a side, scream, and stay confused, while all this plays out. We are watching an open assault on marriage and the traditional family. Articles and talking heads roll their eyes at the idea of a nuclear family, stay-at-home mothers, or a long-term commitment. Marriage is framed as a trap for women and a financial scam for men. Kids are treated like a lifestyle accessory for the rich or something you might do later, if the stars somehow align and the housing market stops trying to kill you. Society went from you must get married to if you want marriage, you are probably broken. In one generation. Here's the twist though. I'm not some guy begging to go back to the 1950s. Personally, I prefer a woman who's independent, career focused, and enjoys life. and doesn't need me to function. I've learned to live alone. I've learned to actually enjoy my own company. And I think every man today should reach that point. Being able to stand on his own without treating relationships like a life support machine. It's the fake nice guy mindset. The guy who thinks ticking boxes on performative politeness, holding doors, or complimenting women, and pretending to agree with everything, should automatically earn them sex, loyalty, and a lifetime partner. That entitlement is just as rotten as the manipulative playboy strategy. A lot of men never work on themselves. Physically, mentally, emotionally. They don't build skills. They don't sort out their own demons. They just assume that if they are present as harmless and needy, the universe owes them a girlfriend. Now let's talk about women for a second, without lying. Women aren't innocent angels in any of this. They have unrealistic expectations too. The perfect man is expected to be financially stable, emotionally intelligent, physically fit, interesting, ambitious, respectful, and somehow always available 24/7, and drama-free. But the key difference is women, culturally, have been encouraged to think more practically. They are told to secure a provider, protect themselves, and use their choices wisely. They are allowed to be selective. They've been given permission to have standards, even when those standards are insane, and they have that choice because society has evolved in their favour in certain ways. Women generally are breaking free from the old chains. They've moved past the 1950s fantasy that gave men the upper hand. One income, one house, one wife at home, and total control over freedom of movement. A lot of women no longer want to be trapped inside a house, waiting for a man to give her permission to live. They want to travel, explore, study, work, and enjoy their lives. And you know what? That's fair. No one should be forced into a life they didn't choose. Men, however, see it from a different angle. Most men today just want stability, a reliable partner, a sense of belonging, a team. But in this climate where bills are stacked, rent is through the roof, and job security is a joke, the idea of a steady home life is deeply attractive. But that desire is being mocked. Men are being told they are creepy, controlling, or not evolved if they want something long-term and exclusive. So you have men grinding for stability and being punished for wanting it. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Society has already moved forward. Whether you think that's good or bad, it doesn't matter. It's happening anyway. You can either scream about it from the sidelines or adapt. The old deal between men and women, I provide money, you provide family, is collapsing. Not just because of feminism or propaganda, but because technology and economics have outgrown it. Women don't need men for financial survival in the way they used to. And men don't need women to cook, clean, or keep a home functioning in the way they used to. The entire game board has changed, and AI is about to flip the table completely. If you think gender wars, cultural shifts, and dating chaos are intense now, wait until AI is fully woven into daily life. We're talking about artificial wombs that could one day make childbirth a choice that doesn't rely on a woman's body in the same way. We're talking about AI systems that can build homes, manage entire supply chains, clean, cook, maintain your schedule, handle your admin, and even act as companions. We're talking about technology that can take over the physical and emotional labour that relationships and family life traditionally provided. That doesn't mean human relationships vanish. It means they become optional in a way they've never been before. Imagine a world where you don't actually need to partner up to survive. You don't need a husband or wife to afford a house because automation has cut building costs and AI handles maintenance. You don't need a partner for companionship because AI can simulate conversation, support, and even affection well enough to scratch that itch for a lot of people. You don't need a relationship to have children because artificial womb technology and gene editing could eventually allow for different ways to create and raise humans. You might still want all those things with another person, but you won't need them the same way. That's the rapture. When the old moral and economic rules get ripped away overnight, AI could easily become a buffer against the current system. It can offer an escape from rigged structures. If wealth and resources start to be distributed more fairly through automation and smart systems, the access to travel, experiences, and a decent standard of living could spread beyond the tiny elite. Imagine not being chained to a soul-crushing job just to service debt on a house you barely live in. Imagine actually having time to exist, to think, to learn, to connect on your terms. That's not utopia, but it's a different battlefield. In that world, dating becomes freedom. You are no longer picking a partner because you are terrified of dying alone or starving. You are picking someone because they actually add something to a life that is already functioning. That changes the stakes, the compromises, and the emotional blackmail that underpins so many modern relationships. Men will have to adapt to this machine-driven world. The provider role won't mean what it used to. If AI can outwork you, outthink you, and out-provide you in cold economic terms, then your value as a man can't just be, I bring money. It's going to be about character, emotional strength, intelligence, creativity, moral backbone, humour, and the ability to navigate chaos. That's confronting if your entire identity is built around a job title, a pay slip, or a set of traditional gender expectations. Now, this doesn't mean relationships disappear. It doesn't mean kids and families are off the table. Those things will always exist, but they'll sit alongside real alternatives. You won't be emotionally blackmailed into marriage by religion, parents, or poverty. You'll be free to choose it for its own sake. That's more honest, more risky, because it forces people to show up as actual partners, not just roles. We also need to stop pretending that men and women are identical. They are not. Biologically, socially, they are wired differently. At times, they might as well be different species trying to share the same cage. Forcing them to live the same script has broken a lot of people. Instead of denying the differences, we should admit them and build a society that works around them, not against them. But that only works if the playing field is fair. Without a fair playing field, women will always be held back, resentful, or both. Now that many are rebelling, the choice is simple. Cling to a broken past, or move forward with them in something new. Will every woman turn into a Bonnie Blue, trying to break sex records for clout? No. But they'll have the option to live however they want. And that's not going away. The internet and global culture have made it impossible to force people back into rigid roles. Once you give humans a taste of freedom, you don't get to snatch it back without a fight. Of course, the whole situation feels hopeless right now. The economy is unstable on purpose. Don't kid yourself. Governments could be doing way more to support ordinary people, but they are not. They stand back while mega corporations inflate everything, while housing becomes unreachable, while wage growth lags behind the cost of living. Every lever they pull seems designed to keep you anxious and compliant. A stressed population doesn't rebel. A divided population doesn't unite. A lonely, overworked citizen is far easier to control. And then you've got the mainstream media, who frame everything as a war. Men versus women, white versus non-white, straight versus everyone else, old versus young. They paint us as enemies constantly. They profit from outrage and divide and conquer narratives. That's how you end up in a country where people who should be natural allies, working class men of all races, women stuck in the same economic traps, migrants who just want stability, are too busy fighting each other online to notice who's actually pulling the strings. We need to accept our differences and embrace change together. If one person in a relationship is unhappy and wants out, that decision shouldn't be a world-ending event. If a marriage ends, if a breakup happens, you can grieve it, but you can't let it define you. There will be more options, there will be more chances. One chapter ending doesn't mean your story is over. That's the mindset shift we need. My problem with hardcore traditionalism is this. People will always want to experience new things, some more than others. But curiosity is human. Trying to lock everyone into a single model of life, one culture, one faith, one family structure, one career path, is doomed to fail. That doesn't mean tradition is dead. People can rediscover it later. Old relationships can be rekindled. Values can be revived. But that only means something if it's chosen freely, not enforced through guilt, shame, or fear. This is where AI comes in again. If you had a world where wealth was more evenly spread, where basic needs were handled, where you could rely on AI companions for care, security, and support, then tradition becomes an option, not a sentence. Religion and culture become sources of meaning, not tools of control. You could live a traditional life in a modern AI-driven world without being trapped in it. You'd be choosing it because it aligns with your soul, not because you are scared of starving. So no, I'm not talking about a dystopian brave new world where family and love are banned. I'm talking about a future where those things exist alongside new ways of living, where life enjoyment is more accessible, where isolation is less lethal, where debt doesn't keep you awake every night. That's not guaranteed, but it's possible if we fight for it and don't let corporations and governments hijack AI purely for profit and control. If this really is some kind of rapture, some kind of reckoning, then my view is simple. Embrace it. Move away from blind tradition, blind religion, blind cultural loyalty. Not because those things are bad. They are not. I actually respect them a lot. Personally, I lean traditional in many ways. I appreciate religion, culture, and heritage. But I also see that the AI future is inevitable. If everyone plays on the same field, with access to the same tools and opportunities, the old ways will naturally evolve, and some will fade, and that's okay. Right now we are being fed a steady diet of anti-male, anti-white, anti-family messaging, dressed up as progress. I'm not saying that to play victim Olympics. I'm saying it because every group is being told to hate or distrust some other group. It stops assimilation. It stops unity. It makes peaceful coexistence impossible. Instead of building a shared identity, people are being pushed into tribal camps. You see fully integrated people who have lived in a country their whole lives, suddenly being asked to pick a side based on race, religion, or ideology. That's not organic. That's engineered. We used to have a stronger sense of mateship, especially in countries like Australia. The idea that no matter where you came from, if you live here, work here, and respect the place, you are part of the team. That's been weakened on purpose. Politicians, media, and certain interest groups find it easier to control a fragmented, suspicious population. Unity is a threat to power. Whether you love or hate people like Pauline Hanson, she taps into something real when she talks about mateship and protecting the country's identity. The problem is that a lot of that rhetoric gets twisted into pure fear and division. I am not for open borders. I believe every nation has the right to control who enters, to protect its culture, and to prioritize its citizens. That's not hatred. That's basic self-preservation. But I also believe in fairness. I believe other countries should be allowed to thrive too. We should stop invading, stop destabilizing, stop propping up extremists when it suits us, and then crying about refugees after. What I'm saying is, national pride doesn't have to mean hating outsiders. It can mean looking after your home first, while supporting others to build theirs. It can mean rebuilding mateship. That idea that we are on the same side, regardless of background, against corrupt elites, media manipulation, and economic exploitation. Now let's talk about how real change actually starts. Not with lone wolves, not with nihilistic individualism, not with everyone disappearing into their own virtual bubble and robot girlfriend. Change starts with a mass mental shift. We need to reject a lot of what we were taught to believe. That endless growth will save us. That status is everything. That motivation is the key to happiness. That success means more and more, because fulfillment is temporary. That's something most people only learn the hard way, later in life. You choose the job. You chase the partner. You chase the perfect body, the perfect image, the perfect bank account. You get some of it, maybe. And then one day you realize the high wears off. You are back to baseline, empty again. So you chase the next fin. That's the treadmill. Imagine if we taught people early on that the treadmill is a trap. That it's okay to aim for enough instead of endless more. That life is about finding a sustainable level of comfort, community, and meaning. Not about becoming a god. If that understanding is wide in young people, they become healthier, less bitter, less easy to manipulate. They work, but they don't worship work. They care, but they don't worship status. They understand that the system is a game, not their identity. George Carlin nailed it when he said that motivation is overrated. A lot of the worst people in history were incredibly motivated. Think about it. Serial killers, corrupt CEOs, tyrants, highly motivated. The point isn't to become some hyper-driven psychopath chasing power. The point is to see clearly. Sometimes hitting rock bottom does that. When you lose the image of yourself that the world sold you, you start seeing what actually matters. Peace, honesty, and the ability to look in the mirror without hating the person staring back. I'm not standing above any of this. I'm a tiny cog in a giant machine, just like you. I'm not pretending I have all the solutions, or that my ideas are flawless. What I do know is that society is fragile, and most people are docile and accepting of whatever narrative they are fed. The more people wake up to how this all works, the more responsibility we have to steer away from violence and tribal politics. It won't be easy. It might get uglier before it gets better, but humanity has come back from worse. So don't reject these ideas just because they are uncomfortable. You don't have to agree with every part of what I'm saying. You can value tradition, religion, culture, and still acknowledge that the world is changing, whether we like it or not. You can care about your country without hating everyone else. You can embrace AI and technological progress without losing your soul. But none of this goes anywhere without support. So I'm just one person talking into a microphone. With you, we become something else. A conversation, a movement, an alternative narrative to the poison we get from the top down. So if this resonates with you, if you feel that the game is rigged, but you are not ready to roll over and die, then share this. Talk about it. Challenge it. Send it to someone who's quietly drowning in all of this and thinks it's just their personal failure. Because it's not. The rapture is here. Not as a beam of light from the sky, but as a slow, grinding collapse of old systems and the rise of new ones. You can cling to the rubble, or you can ride the wave. Learn to live alone. Learn to value mateship. Learn to use AI and not be used by it. Stop trying to be the most motivated person in a dying system. Start trying to be the most honest one. Enjoy your life. Let go of the image other people have of you. Accept that some things are broken and may never go back to how they were. And from that place of honesty, start again.